Wombat Creek. So I had this subliminal memory in my mind of Wombat Creek, so that's where I came from. And so later on, you know, when they asked me what school I went to, I would say always Lower Wombat. I can remember coming to school to Sydney. I had £50. I had nowhere to stay. I didn't even know where French's Forest was. My mother rang up the post office and they said it was in Sydney somewhere. And I had no accommodation and I knew nobody. And I remember I wasn't getting paid until sort of about a month. And I spent my first third of my money on the first hotel bill for the first night because I was really ignorant. They sold me a really expensive room, you know. They thought, here comes a sucker, you know. Anyhow, I would have starved except I had some luck. And I met a couple of people by sheer luck. And one of them was a fellow called Hilton Mace, who was a teacher at the school. He said, oh, you can come and stay at our place and I'll feed you until you get paid, which was terrific. Now, enough of that. Part-time science degree killed my social life and it killed my painting. I was painting there quite seriously for about 3 or 4 years and then I just ran out of time. Then I fell in love and I wrote bad poetry. I was employed as a science method lecturer at Armadale Teachers College after I finished my degree. And I painted a bit, but less. Then the pressure was on to do a PhD and I didn't really want to do it. I wanted to write poetry, you know, here's my writing poem. This is when Gwen was giving me tuition. So then the marriage disintegrated and I felt absolutely miserable, so I came back to the city. And my verse got better. So a little bit of unhappiness is good for a poet. And I'm too happy now to be a poet. So that's I got a job at the museum, and this was also a wonderful thing because the museum was a nerdy place full of autistic scientists, and they're all bloody mad, you know, and they're all obsessive and they're all monomaniacs, and I was one of them, and I felt perfectly at home. And for the first time in my life, I was the round peg in the round hole, you know, I was pig in mud again. And that was wonderful. And then I started painting again, and I was painting a big painting called Perception and Magnitude, and the surviving fragment of that is around the corner here. Now, this painting was 4 metres long, and it was quite an ambitious painting. And then I met Brett Whiteley. Now, I was painting in a similar style at that stage because this is in the catalogue as well. But it was this big expanse of the universe and sex and death and all of that. And the homunculus was the little creature in the sperm head coming out on this side, which was the life force coming through in the painting. And I walked into this studio. Well, a friend of mine, Andrew Bray, was building a boat at North Sydney Gas Station. That's how I met Brett, because Brett and he used to be chatting over the bonsai fig, you know. And I walked into this studio and I was blown out of my mind again because this man was a genius. I mean, God, it was just incredible. And he was painting his big Bathurst painting at the moment. And I thought to myself, I can't do this. I'm a Sunday painter. How can I be a painter, you know? So I then became a poet. At university, I studied history of fine arts and loved that with Lorna Nimmo. And, you know, I was always interested in painting. I think I'm a modern. I'm not postmodern, but I'm certainly influenced by the moderns from the 1890s to the 1930s in France mostly, and they are still my favourite painters. I don't like installations all that much. Because Helen's here, I'll just make a little joke about the patriarchy. I didn't know much about the patriarchy because I didn't have a pater, P-A-T-E-R. And I came to university and all these women were banging on about how they were being discriminated against. I thought to myself, my God, you don't know you're bloody alive. You know, their bloody daddies were lawyers and architects and what have you. they were staying at home with mummy and daddy, who were feeding them and paying their transport costs. Muggins here had to work all day, pay for his own accommodation, food, transport, booze and social life, and then go to university at night and study. And they were being discriminated against. So it did make me quite angry. And I was a bit angry. And I think I had a chip on my shoulder, you know, a country kid coming to this big city. Perhaps not a chip, it was more like a cedar log. But I sort of... Anyhow, so when they were going to do a book on female poetry, I'm thinking, well, Muggins here is more deserving of a leg up in the culture wars than some middle-class lady from Roseville. And that was my motivation. And I got published in Mother I'm Rooted as Eileen. And that was a mild Ern Malley hoax. But because of that, I was sin-binned for 20 years. I really copped a lot of shit, only for thinking that I was deserving of a leg up because I didn't have social advantage. And where in multiple variable analysis do you draw the line? Now, in fairness, Helen, I believe absolutely in equal pay and equal opportunity. I'm a strong supporter of free, state, secular education. So I think I'm a feminist now, there's no doubt. I believe in all of that. So there's one for the books, you know. But at that stage, it was my worst literary blunder, and it destroyed my poetry career. What I'm hoping now is my poetry will be saved by my paintings. I will sort of wind up very soon. When I retired, the first week of my retirement, I had come to this place to go to art classes, and that was also wonderful. My teachers were Judy Pennyfather and Leela Spencer, and I learnt one hell of a lot. And I learned a lot from the students as well, because we had talks and we'd look at each other's work and say, how to do that, what you do. And it was a great time. I learned, Robin was in my class at one stage with Leela. We had a ball. John was in our class, and we laughed, we really had a good time, and we learned.
Well, we weren't crying.
Well, we cried something. Well, art is like that. I suffered great joy and great frustration. So that's what it is. But I worked through the frustration by going away. But because I'm dogged, I come back to it. And if in my mind I identify a problem, if I go away, the answer comes to me in my sleep or at the bus stop or whatever. So it is to do with process. And that's part of what it is all about. So I've certainly suffered severe frustration and blocks and all of that. But I think the trick is to press on, because the solution is a technical solution, and the technical solution is to do with, you know, this illusion you're doing in 2 dimensions and the medium you're using. And I must acknowledge Robin Dorling was a great mentor as well from the art gallery, and his partner Jocelyn Morn, and they gave me technical advice over the 10 years, and it was invaluable because they were good artists, good practitioners. They knew what they were talking about. I respected them, and they were prepared to give me their time, and that's a wonderful thing. So my retirement then has been really wonderful. The only disadvantage is you know, decrepitude, and I'm starting to feel my body's not as good as it was, and I can't remember things, and I forget people's names, but I will keep going for as long as I can. The stellar images, I've always been interested in stellar things, the sun and the moon, the stars, that sort of thing. There's a lot of those images in my poetry, a lot in my painting. The big painting at the back, which is the feature painting, I called it Stardust through a discussion with Robin Dorling, and he was saying, oh, the background behind the eyes looks too much like the background of the painting. And I said, well, that's the stardust behind the eyes. You know, that we are stardust and we will become stardust, you know, and that throwaway line is where the title of that painting came from. This is the catalogue, which is called Stardust Painter-Poet, and it is literally my life's work in paintings, all this later stuff, all my student nudes, all my genre work, and then some of the middle period stuff, the stuff leading up to Whiteley, Teachers College stuff, and baby stuff. And it's interspersed with poems. That's the homunculus. That's the little fragment. You can probably see that if you've got good long vision. It's the one on the wall there. Yeah, this is a short one. It's to do with the aching to paint. And I can remember I had a very good life. I've had good working places, and I've enjoyed working at the Botanic Gardens and the museum especially. But there were times when I ached to paint. You know, I just wanted to paint. But I couldn't afford the time nor the money. And this is a very short poem. It's called Remembering Things Past in the Art Gallery. Remembering things past in the art gallery, like hope and lust, dead friends, the crackling of the grass, the spoils of war and peace, a sack of heads, young gods at 23 progress, the twig is bent, the baying of the arty herd. Marcel Duchamp is less for being bagged like this. Now I am grey, my body hurts to squander life on work. And I finish up with a touch of, to do with greyness. I now am a senior citizen, and I am tall and long and gaunt and grey, but in my paintings I'm colourful. Because my spirit is colourful. So if you go and look at the big one at the back, it's full of coloured dots. So there is colour in the spirit. So thank you very much. Now, does anyone want to say anything or ask any questions or engage in debate? Yeah.
Is a painting there's one that really you love best? Have you got a favourite?
Oh, the one I love best is the one I'm working on right now, which is home in my studio. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. No, Eve Close. Yeah, look, Eve Close is an artist here at the Royal Art Society. She's a very good portraiture painter, and yeah, no, it's the one I'm working on right now. Although I like this one, and that's the one I did last, sort of before I did this one. So this en fleur, and I like the water bits. I like this little bit of the reflection, and I like the man and the dog in the boat. And with paintings, it's every square centimetre, so there are bits of them that don't work sometimes. And that's the hard bit of learning to paint, is to sort out the harmony of it and to get the thing working. And a trick I learnt from Philip Brackenridge is he says with the composition, if you sort of do that to it and it still looks like a good painting, you've got something going for you. Because most people, the painting, they do this is a little bit here and they do there's the painting, and they forget about all of that. The painting is everything. It's the composition of the whole integrity. Yeah. Danny.
Can I quickly say something about how you handle light? Because I find that very interesting.
Well, I think you can handle light by thinking about snow falling on a branch of a tree. So where the white bit is where there'll be light if the sun is up there. So if the sun is higher, it's where the snow lands on the tree. If not, you've got to imagine it. If it's coming in from this way, it's going to be there. And the tree is a cylinder, so you have to construct the shade of that, which is going from the gradations of a little bit of shade to light to shade, and then you get reflected light on the back. So it's complicated. So it is quite technical and quite scientific.
And is there any relation to that with the dotting effect?
Well, with the dotting effect, I've just been experimenting with that, but I think if you're doing a face, it's where the planes of the face are, so where it turns over, so here with the temple or whatever. So when it's changing direction, you can change colour. And it doesn't have to be a real colour, it's just a change in colour. Now if you look at Matisse, that first one he did his wife with the green down the middle, that's a famous painting. And it breaks all the rules, but it's a damn good painting. Now with the the gradations of the face and the bumps and the shadows, you've then got to work out, I suppose, highlight, middle and shadow. Now, Eve painted my portrait a couple of years ago and I was watching her because she had the mirror up so I could watch her doing what she was doing. And she was working from the highest highlight to the darkest bit. Is that correct?
That's a bit right.
So she was working from the highlight, this is to do a hand or something.
I start with shadows first.
Yes,
then
okay,
highlight.
okay. So, but it's from the contrast of the shadow to the highlight. Now, what I tend to do is, I tend to work from the shadows to the highlights too, and that's because the shadows, I use thinner paint, and I tend to use thicker paint for the highlights. But that's just, there's no, I think in some ways you can sort of do it your own way. But does that answer your question?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
To give that sort of model effect too, I mean, I think like to see it.
But then also you can break the rules, because I was studying Gauguin's Nevermore in London, in the Courtauld Institute, and where he had some of the shadow on the arm was the wrong shadow, because he'd reversed it. But it worked. So, you know, you can sometimes reverse the reality and it still works.
And that's sort of a Gauguin effect.
This is a Gauguin effect. This is a favourite model. I like this model. She was great. John's painted her. And I've painted about 6, 7 times. And that's very much in the Gauguin style because I'm interested in those colours. But I like the composition here because I like this and this and this. That's a nice painting. Now, I don't say that about all my work. There are some paintings I can't stand and some I do not like and some I destroy, and you know, so it's only some of them come through the fire at the other end, you know. I'm intuitive and I just do it. Now, it's interesting. What? No manifesto, you know, I just do it. Now, but I do intellectualise it, and for example, in this one I've called Chincogan and Mount Rushmore. So Chincogan is our little hill from our little village, which is a baby hill to Mount Warning, and this is from McLeod.